An Axie Infinity breeder. As an Axie Infinity breeder, I started a thread on Twitter. I'm very concerned about the market, SLP. I love the team. I love Sky Mavis. I love everything going on there. I'm not really that concerned. That's a little bit kind of blowing it up for the video there. But with the breeding changes, some things have happened with our guild, and I'm wondering what other breeders are feeling, what other people in the community are feeling, um, how it affects their guild and their operations, and things that are happening with the breeding changes. So this is my thread. I find it hard to breed a line and a pair just 3 times and not having the genetics break down for mutations. So what I mean there is, like, when you're breeding Axies, if you breed them just 3 times because there's a chance of mutations and back genes and things, it seems like eventually your line will break down and you'll have too many mutations and it'll be hard to breed purity and keep the line going the further generations you go. I feel like you need to breed 4 or more times to keep a line pure and to continue it at the current rate of mutation. Lines that we were breeding for a profit or break even just to make scholarship programs are no longer viable to breed right now and continue. It is not financially sound to continue breeding that 4th time or more on almost any of the lines we have at the moment. At this time, we are better off converting the SLP that we intake from our scholarship to Ethereum and purchasing teams off the marketplace floor for our scholars instead of breeding for our scholars. Where I think this causes an unintended issue, and they might have intended for this, breeders are important to the ecosystem because we're the buyers of SLP and the counterparty to the sellers and the selling caused by scholars. With that being said, I didn't understand the changes, and I wanted to kind of start a conversation. If I were to guess, these were made to slow down. These changes were made to slow down breeders like us, and maybe slow down this crazy exponential growth we saw all over the summer. I myself being part of it. We started our guild in the end of July. I believe I started playing the game in like June or so, when the hype was at max level and we brought on millions of people into this game. So maybe they are trying to slow down the growth right now, while Sky Mavis is going through some changes and getting ready to make some releases and V2 and the Axie syncs. I could be missing something here, but that's just kind of like my personal thought right now. And to really break it down a little more, I look at the marketplace here and, like, let's refresh the marketplace. 0.02 for Axies. So when you have a mutated Axie that doesn't play as well in your breeding line, it's most likely going to sell for around 0.02. All right. Then you can look at just traditional beast lines, 0.04, 0.038 for like just a traditional plant. This one's even got the zigzag cactus pumpkin hotbut. So, I mean, that's a pretty good standard plant there. You look at like a standard bird here. You see these standard birds around 0.03. And then you can look at even some of the more profitable stuff we used to be breeding. The hairbirds that went with the aquas, 0.052 now. And these were dropping quickly before the breeding change, just because I believe a lot of people were breeding them. They were getting to popularity and stuff like that. Same with the bugs. The meta change, we went in and we were profitably breeding these bugs. The floor was dropping as liquidity was coming in, as others were coming in to do the same thing. Totally understandable. We had gotten down to a floor of 0.06. Well, we got to look at the cost of breeding now. To breed 3 times, that third breed is 0.0545. So pretty much all of these are not viable to even breed 3 times right now. So that's where I kind of see there's an issue here. And I don't know if it was meant to just slow down, if we're supposed to just kind of take a pause here for a moment and just kind of wait, which is what we're doing. I mean, we're going to just take our SLP, and when we need teams, we're just going to buy it off the marketplace to create scholarship teams at this point. And we're just going to hold our farms back to either wait and see if the market adjusts upwards, which I think it will, or for Sky Mavis to drop like a V2 Axie sync or something like that. But I don't know. I think this had an unattended effect of maybe even slowing down the buy side pressure from breeders on SLP. And I'm really interested to hear what the community has to say about that, what others are doing. This Twitter post went over it a lot. A lot of people said, I'm aligned with the state of affairs. I do not wish to get wrecked. Need to mull some things before I can offer more of an opinion. Picoy said, I stopped breeding as well as I find it not profitable anymore, plus the risk of getting bad offspring just to floor it. I think buying off the market is better at this point if you're doing scholarships rather than breeding. Breeder of 50 to 100 weekly has come to full halt. Was a week into breeding bumpy bone sale and lost over 10,000 on the nerf. I can't afford to breed because my sales have drastically declined and buyers are looking for floor prices now. So this thing I don't really necessarily agree with. If you got caught in the nerf, it's kind of on you. You knew something was super OP. If you're breeding for the super high MMR meta Axies, you gotta know they're probably gonna get nerfed, right? And you probably should, like, towards the end of the season, let it go. And maybe you stick with basic Axies, like basic plant beast bird teams that are middle of the roaders. But even those are getting hurt from just too much supply side. Too much supply side. So also as a breeder, I stopped a few months ago, and my genes are good to have 90% chance of success. Then suddenly 3 to 4 straight times it go off disappointed since I have to put 7 of 7 floor price mutations is just bad specifically. I don't know if I understand this really. This might be like a case of poker where you just kind of like remember the worst part, like the losing hand more often than not. I think the math works. I just think you need to breed 4 times or more to keep your lines clean. Otherwise, if you're only breeding 3 or less times, you are going to get caught by mutations and your farm will slowly shrink until it's no longer viable. I believe. That's my personal opinion. To be honest, here's hodlpsi.eth. To be honest, I've completely stopped breeding. It's less stress to just buy the Axies outright, especially since the opportunity cost for me breeding is less Ron farmed. I've halted breeding until after Ron is released. It's an interesting point. Also, my scholars are producing less SLP, less motivated to play with SLP declining daily. That's interesting. We have seen very little bit of that. Very, very little. The majority of our scholars still love the game, are still playing the game. In general, I might say the 3 types of breeding floor prices, which kill. In general, I might say there are 3 types of breeding. Breeding floor prices, which they kill with the 800 MMR change. Breeding medium meta Axies that are decent for scholars. Now, in best case scenario, you are even. And if you had bad genes, you are losing money. So that's like breeding the basic plant beast bird teams, and why I think you should just buy them off the market right now. Pointless to follow. I actually like the points here. And breeding the high yellow meta Axies, which can be very profitable but very risky, because this is where the Axies tend to go really down in 5 days. This is very, very true. This is all true. This is what we said. Rapid and massive growth of Axie Infinity has both become positive and negative. Positive because a lot of players believe in the game and what Axie Infinity can evolve to. Negative is a lot of players poured in the game, massive SLP minting, and lower SLP price and so on. I actually agree with that. I actually agree with that a lot. We had some other people chime in here. Travis, who I respect in the community. It's interesting to them as well. Also, new suppression of the SLP price. I don't see anybody going past a few breeds unless the price of Axies dramatically increases. And if SLP were to bounce to 10 to 15 cents, that's quite an expensive burn. I agree with that completely. But I don't think SLP, I think SLP needs to be stable. And like, that's a tough conversation to have too, is like, what should people be earning? What is the price at which people should be able to earn from playing a game? You know, is it 5 cents? Is it a couple $100 US a month? And is this based on the US economy? Is this based on other economies, a world economy? It's a very in-depth conversation that needs to be had. You know, that's where I chimed in. He said, yeah, however, since the summer hype, the team has been building ways to try and stabilize SLP. Katana holds a lot of SLP and liquidity to prevent shortages. The high SLP requirements on the latter breed count suppressing mass breeding. Something is coming soon. And that's kind of what I thought here. I think that they're just buying some time for some big releases of V2, Axie Syncs, land play. They kind of wanted to pump the brakes a little bit while they develop some stuff out. And Davers actually said that wasn't a bad thought. Often the obvious reason is the only reason why changes are made. Either way, prices will have to balance out if player scholars are to come on board. And I agree with that 100%. That's pretty much our Axie video. Let us know what you think about the Axie breeding price changes. If you're a breeder, if you're a scholar, what you think. We'd love to know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Houston! Houston?
Yeah, we got to deploy Resta.
Is that it?